Finally, I got this email. She said, hey, I actually have something that popped up. Can you come tomorrow for an interview? And I said, I will be there tomorrow morning. I'm already on the way to the airport and I'm going to be there. Like, no, we'll just do a phone call. And I said, no, I want to prove to you that like I will do anything for this job and I'm going to be there tomorrow morning and I'm already on my way. And so I left school right that day and just hopped on a plane, went down to Atlanta. That's why I ended up getting the job. There's people that were actually a bit more qualified than me. But they said, listen, the fact that you were willing to drop it and just show up, we realized that like you're going to do what it takes.
So today we're speaking with Charlie Lehmer. Charlie is an Emmy-nominated visual effects supervisor whose career spans on-set production and post-production. After starting as a data wrangler, Charlie pivoted to VFX through CG Spectrum by completing courses in modeling and Nuke VFX with personalized mentor-led approach that accommodated his demanding on-set schedule and allowed him to customize to learn the pipeline skill sets that he needed. Charlie's big break came as the lead VFX supervisor on All the Light We Cannot See, for which he's earned an Emmy nomination. His portfolio also includes credits on blockbuster hits like Avengers Endgame and Deadpool Wolverine. Charlie wants to show people how you can bridge the gap between production and post-production and encourage more professionals to explore specialized training as a tool for career growth. So welcome, Charlie. Great to have you here, and let's get into it. How's it going?
Good. Excited to be here.
Great. So we're Charlie Lehmer. He's a student here at CG Spectrum quite a while ago, and has had a pretty exciting career since then. So we're going to talk through his journey and how he got there. Maybe it can inspire some people further along. So welcome, Charlie. I'd love to hear a little bit about yourself and how this all started.
So yeah, I was always thought the film industry would be something I wanted to do. I had an aunt and uncle in the industry when I was young. From afar, heard their stories and was intrigued by it. So when I went to school, I kind of lost the dream, was planning on being a lawyer. And that I took an art class and I quickly was like, wow, this is not homework. This is, actually fun. So I immediately switched and started studying film and kind of went for it. And towards my senior year, I would fly to films across the U.S. to work on weekend gigs wherever people would hire me. I would visit friends or family, and then I would also do some jobs on the weekend. So I ended up getting a lot of work through that. And as my senior year progressed, I then reached out to more and more people, and actually ended up leaving school early because I got a dream gig working as a director's assistant in Atlanta. Came down there. From there, I bounced around quite a bit to camera departments, to other departments on several gigs, and finally landed in visual effects. And my first big gig was on Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And I was working on set, and I just fell in love, absolutely loved it. An interesting thing was I had been doing visual effects on my own for years, but didn't realize I had a passion for it, oddly. On weekends, I would use After Effects. I've been using it since I was 12. And it was one of those things where I never connected the film industry with visual effects. It was always camera or other things. And once I got on set, it clicked. And ever since then, I started rising up on set and I became a data wrangler, and I did data wrangling on Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, which was just an incredible experience, getting to work with, some of the top people in the game. And I kind of hit a plateau, though. And I think it's really interesting because a lot of people, production side or in the industry on set, you plateau pretty quickly and you reach data wrangler and you can't really get further than that. And it's very hard to make the leap to VFX supervisor. And I had a background and I had used Nuke before and I used Maya before a bit, but it wasn't enough. And anytime I tried any sort of online courses, they were so regimented and sort of vanilla in a way that it wasn't giving me what I wanted. So I actually found CG Spectrum. And while I was still working, I started doing online classes. I started with Maya to make sure I liked it, and then switched to Nuke because I knew Nuke would be the most useful for what we were doing. And I had an instructor that really worked with me to help me find the skills that I needed for the work I was doing, specifically like pipeline kind of things. And obviously I did a lot of the artistry and things that you would typically expect. But what was so unique to me and cool was I actually got to build the skill set of skills that are really unique in my job. Because a lot of what we do production side is you're the liaison with all these vendors and people that maybe have a little bit more technical know-how than me. But as long as I can take their scripts, check their pipelines, check what's going on with color, things like that, check some of the overall work, I can give notes and I can help my lead supervisor out production side. So the supervisor I've been working with for years, Swen Gilberg, found out I was doing this and really took me under his wing and helped mentor me, because I was able to help him and give him scripts. And Swen's Oscar nominated. He's done a bunch of really, really big films, and he honestly is to thank for most of my career. He's just an amazing guy that mentored me and really helped. But if I hadn't done my training, CG Spectrum, I couldn't have helped him out with these tasks. So I really tailored my education when I was studying Nuke with CG Spectrum, to make sure that I could be as helpful for him as possible. So yes, I learned all the typical comping skills you would learn in Nuke, but to me, finding someone that would teach me boring stuff like pipeline and setups and things like this, I couldn't find that anywhere else. It just doesn't really exist. Maybe one video here or there, but I had an instructor for a year essentially that, helped me dig into this, and it really just completely skyrocketed my career. After that, I got lucky and I was helping Swen as his assistant supervisor on a couple projects. And as we were finishing up The Gray Man with the Russo brothers, Swen needed to stay longer into post. And so he wasn't able to move on to our next project, which was called All the Light We Cannot See with Sean Levy. And I've been doing plenty of supervisor tasks with Swen, but I certainly hadn't, led anything yet. And I just, the right place, the right time with Swen, he wasn't able to go start All the Light, and talked to Sean, and Sean knew me from past projects on Free Guy. And Sean said, yeah, Charlie, start us off. And the plan was for me just to do the first couple of weeks of pre-production while Swen finished The Gray Man. The Gray Man took even longer. So then we said, well, why don't I just do all of pre-production? Gray Man took even longer. And so we said, well, why don't you at least start the shoot and Swen will come in and take over from you? Gray Man took even longer. And I got to do the whole shoot all on my own. And we got to post. Swen did finish Gray Man. So then Swen came in, and we worked through post together. But he said, listen, you've managed to do all of set and prep, so why don't you take lead in post? And he was just incredible and let me take lead in post as well, all of our vendors, and the vision. And it was just really, really lucky for me, but I managed to not drown. And it was a great experience. So that kind of led me there. And then after that, last project I did was Deadpool and Wolverine, again with Swen, as his second soup, for all of prep, shoot, and post. So a lot of great experiences, and who knows what's next, but that's my long-winded version of my story and history.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
I think to back up a bit, I think one of the things that would be interesting to hear more about was, you said you were in your senior year in college. Just the idea that you were getting gigs then. What did that take? Like, how did you go about doing that? Because I think it was one of the things that a lot of people just like, where do I even start? And it sounds like you started pretty early.
Yeah, to be honest, the gigs were not a lot of them impressive. It was
Sure.
sometimes helping out on a project where I was treated like crap or the job was crap. I did, one of the big ones I got was Batman vs Superman, but I was, an additional PA for a weekend where there was 80 other PAs, and we were just lock up PAs, on the street. And I didn't have the money to do much, so I stayed in this part of town had like gunshots going off at night. It was $20 for this Motel 6 or something, and there was like underwear behind the fridge, and it was not a great place. They said in signs, triple lock your door, and I was in there just like, I hope I survive the weekend. But to just try to make it work whenever I could, because I knew that in order to when I got my big opportunity of someone giving me a job, I would need to make sure I had some experience. And when it came to it, and I got the email in my senior year to get this job, the way I got it was I actually got an email of a line producer through a friend of a friend, and I just would email her every month, not obnoxiously. There's a point to where you email someone all the time and they're gonna block you, but I would just be, hey, just checking in if you have anything. And she would say, nope, nope, nope. And then finally I got this email and she said, hey, I actually have something that popped up. Would you want to be our director's assistant? I'll pass you on the info. And so I got a call for the interview. And people said, oh, are you in Atlanta? Can you come tomorrow for an interview? And at this point I was in school in Maryland. And I said, well, I'm in Maryland, but I will be there tomorrow morning. I'm already on the way to the airport and I'm going to be there. Like, no, we'll just do a phone call. And I said, no, I want to prove to you that like, I will do anything for this job, and I'm going to be there tomorrow morning, and I'm already on my way. And so I left school right that day and just hopped on a plane, went down to Atlanta. And that's why I ended up getting the job. There's people that were actually a bit more qualified than me. But they said, listen, the fact that you were willing to drop it and just show up, we realize that like you're gonna do what it takes.
Well, but even before that, though, like what is a walk-up PA, or how would you get that role even?
Yeah, so lockup PA, I did a lot of just searching online, and any sort of friends I knew. My distant family, my aunt is a production designer, or not production, graphic artist. So my aunt as a graphic artist, if she knew anyone, I would touch base with her on little projects, big projects. If I had other friends doing indie projects, whatever. Forums on Facebook, postings. Every once in a while, you get lucky and someone there knows someone. And again, most of those projects weren't impressive. And my goal was not to get unimpressive projects. It was just to show people, hey, I'm passionate and I'm trying. And like all the people I've interviewed since then, they're trying to get in the industry. It's not if they've done really impressive projects as being a PA. If someone is excited, I will always hire the person that's excited and showing that they're excited regardless of how impressive something is or is not.
Obviously it's not glamorous staying in motels like that, and maybe not even for the credits. But did you find that like the networking things like that, did that help you down the line just to
I
get
think a
in
little
the
bit.
door?
A lot of them know we're dead ends. But yeah, every once in a while I would meet like a key set PA or something like that, or another PA that had gotten a couple of jobs, and they would say, "Oh, we need more PAs on this gig," because oftentimes there's not enough PAs in a city or something, and they need people for weekends. To be honest, getting a staff job, that's really hard. That I think I got lucky by getting this line producer's email and emailing them all the time. But I think eventually, I hope I would have gotten there without that email. And that's the kind of thing how you get that is by getting that, through these connections. I got lucky with that email, and that my aunt gave me that email of this line producer. So I guess that's a bit of a cheat. And so I don't have advice for how to get past that cheat, but I do think I was making progress. And when I got that email back, that's how I was able to hop in, because I had showed, I'd done things. If I had just done what I'd done in school with making some short films and helping friends out, I don't think they would have been okay with it, because they needed to see that I had some on-set experience.
From the line producer role, you coming on as a staff PA, how did you work on from there? Would you say that was purely just experience based, or were you meeting different people, learning new things on set?
A lot of it's hard work, and that sounds easy, but just like once you get into a position, when I got that staff role as the director's assistant, I tried to meet everyone I could, and I'd help out and do whatever extra I could. I think the big thing for me was I always offered, can I help someone, but not in an aggressive way. There's people that always want to get in there and be a part of everything and help, but just saying, hey, is there anything you can do? I'm happy to stay late and help you out. Even other random departments, like my day would be over and I'd go over to the AD department or props and be like, hey, I see you guys carrying that. Can I help you carry that back? And I did that with every department on that job, trying to help out everyone, because I knew I needed to secure my own next job. This line producer gave me this thing, but she said, you take it from here. So I hung out with every department I could, made stuff, and friends, anyone I could, help people out. And then my next gig that I got in camera department was because another PA that was supposed to take it, she knew me because I had helped her out and made coffee for her team members and things like that as favors. And then she said, oh, I can't take this camera job. Do you want it? I took it. And then the job after that, same thing. It was a fellow colleague that was on Guardians of the Galaxy and dropped out of the film because she had gotten a different job she preferred in stunts. And she said, listen, you told a lot. Would you want this job? I said, yeah, I took that job. So it's just putting your best foot forward with everyone. You never know who is going to give you that next little job.
For students, they likely do not know what camera is. So, could you explain a little bit about what that role would be and like making that leap from PA?
Yeah, so the camera department is obviously very central. They're the ones running the camera, shooting the camera, but it's a lot more than just someone holding the camera and operating the camera. It's a whole department. So you have the director of photography. They're the ones designing the shots. They're kind of a mix, right, where they're deciding what the shots are going to look like and the angles, but also controlling all the lighting. But then they have a whole team below them. So they have camera operators, who are the ones that actually hold the cameras and operate the cameras. Below that, you have focus pullers, who are the ones that actually control focus on the camera. They're called a first AC, sometimes the second AC. The second ACs are the next level of assistants, and they help the first ACs, usually help build the cameras. They're very technical pieces on Alexa 65s or any of these cameras. There's a lot of bits and bobs. So You have people that are really technical and can build the cameras, put them together. Below that, you have um, a number of other positions, and then you have PAs. So the PA is kind of there to help out on everything that you possibly can. A lot of what I was doing is making coffees and sandwiches. Not highly technical job, but it's about proving yourself to people that you can make a sandwich reliably. You cannot mess up. You can be there. They wanted their lunches right at 12. So getting there early at catering, 15 minutes early before the line built up. And I would have everyone's boxes with their names written, exact details of what they wanted. So I didn't mess anything up. I would carry balanced 12 boxes on my hands walking back to set. But people see these things, and that's how I got these next jobs. Is people would say like, oh, you're the guy that was carrying 12 boxes. Jeez, and I would have these all ready and they'd be the first ones that would get their food. I would make sure that I never messed up an order. And those attention to detail things, they're small, and it seems like, well, this isn't what I signed up for, but they're paying attention. When you mess up, they're paying attention. When you nail it, they're paying attention. And I had a guy on that job that found out I didn't want to be in camera because I thought I wanted to be a director or change departments. And he hated me at the start and said, this guy's disrespectful, doesn't want to be in camera. This camera it's very difficult and it's very prestigious. And he said, how could you be in an apartment and not want to stick with us? But by the end, he said, listen, you're one of the best PAs here at anything. Let me know, you're dedicated. And that's what I wanted to prove is even if I'm not here to be in camera, I'm here to show you I'm going to do a good job. And that showed. And I did that consistently on every job I was on. And some jobs were less impressive than others, but slowly over time it built up. And I think that's how my career became successful, is that people just listened and noticed, and then gave me opportunities because of it.
And then, as you moved up to data wrangler, I think that's again a position that's a bit shrouded in mystery of what that actually entails. So very curious to learn a little bit more about that, and then how you made that transition. Was that again just being there on set and talking to people?
Yeah, definitely. So as a VFX PA, the natural progression is to a junior data wrangler and then to a data wrangler. So first, I'll just explain what data wrangler is. It's boils down to capturing data, and what that means is capturing everything from photos on set, doing chrome ball passes, gray ball passes on set, witness cameras, taking HDRIs, all the data that you might use in post to lighten environment or get reference of a scene, build texture swatches, use photogrammetry to create things. These are all captured by data wranglers who are on set every day, getting anything they think might be useful in post. A lot of data wranglers don't know what's useful, so usually we do a vomit technique where we go into sets and we capture every bit of data we possibly can, to make sure that when we get to post, if something comes up and, oh, we decide now we want someone to break through that wall, well, we have texture passes of that, and we have models built of the plants that are in front of it so that we can recreate all these things. So data wranglers, there's a lot of photography involved. There's a lot of data capture in terms of what the camera is using. We need to know what lens is on every shot, how high the camera is off the ground, the tilt, distance to subject. They write all these things down in a database, and they take photos, they do LiDAR scans, all these things. So it's a very technical job, not as much creativity in it, but it's what sets us up for success in post by having all this data for our artists and our vendors to use around the world. So that's what data wrangler is. So my transition to it, I was the PA, and the natural transition, as I said, was going towards being a junior wrangler. And the wrangler I've been working for took a liking to me because, again, I did everything I could to go above and beyond to help him. And so when I finished Guardians of the Galaxy, he asked if I wanted to join on his next project, which was the first Avengers, or Infinity War. And I was kind of unsure because I didn't really want to be a PA again, but I said, listen, I'll sign up. But I got to come on really, really early in prep. And by coming on early in prep, I, again, tried to work my hardest, and I proved to the producers that I knew cameras, because I've been using cameras since I was 12 as well, because I loved photography. I did nature photography. And one of the longest things to learn as a wrangler is photography. So if you do have good photography skills, honestly, it's very quick to become a wrangler. That is 90% of the skill set, is being able to take very high technical photos. You don't need to be initially artistic with photography. It's a very different kind of skill set. You need to know settings so that you can get the cleanest image, the sharpest image, like when you pop up the ISO, when you change the shutter speed, all these things. Because the data is so important for post. If things are noisy, or if there's a little bit of blur or it's out of focus, a lot of people come and being like, oh, I'll just use the auto setting and I can get great photos and no one will know. I will immediately know. And I check any new Wrangler's data on any of my sets, and I can tell, oh, they're using the auto setting, and I know it's not someone that's experienced enough for me as a Wrangler. So me having that photography background experience, this Wrangler recognized it, these producers recognized it, and I kept working as hard as I could. And they said, listen, we were going to hire a Wrangler, but as we're going into the shoot, you have the skill set and you've proved to us. So why don't you just be our Wrangler? So I got to be the Wrangler on that, and then stayed for the next. And those two projects, because they were so massive, I was on them for 3.5 years. And it was some of the best experience ever, because we had the biggest mocap unit in the world that I had known of at that point. I'm sure, Avatar had some more going on, but for me, it was a very, very massive production. And I learned more than any other project I've learned on that project. So it's less impressive than some resumes, because I was on this only 2 films over the course of 3.5 years, but to get to really dig into projects like that, I actually learned quite a bit. And it was definitely instrumental into like making me feel unbelievably comfortable as a Wrangler.
And not a bad project to be on for that
Yeah.
long.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
That worked out all right. Yeah, so then you were data wrangling and then working on your way to VFX. So making that step up, was that just a similar thing where he noticed you doing that and then I guess kind of re-educating yourself?
Yeah, it partially came down actually on Free Guy. So I was working with a new producer on Free Guy, and I knew I wanted to be a supervisor's assistant at this point. And this is when I'd started taking my courses and finished some of my courses with CG Spectrum, and I knew that this is where I wanted to go. So I reached out to Sven Gilberg, the supervisor I've been working with, and said, listen, this is what I want to do. And he said, I'll bring you on. We'll get you on. And I was talking to this producer, Viet Lu, amazing guy.
So how did you meet Sven, or how would you? Because you said you just contacted him, which is probably something rare for people.
Oh, so Sven I already knew. Sven was my supervisor on Infinity Wars and Endgame. So I got to
Oh,
know
okay.
him really well on both those as Wrangler, but I hadn't really expressed interest to supervising. And so after that finished, I texted him one day and said, listen, I really want to get into supervising. And he said, all right, join me on Free Guy. We'll make it happen. And so I was talking to the producer, Viet Lu, really, again, a guy with a great background. Viet's really, really amazing. I've done a couple of projects with Viet now. And he did Ready Player One as a producer and a number of other really big projects. And Viet said, listen, I can't actually give you a supervisor credit or anything like that. But I'm going to give you the responsibilities that would go with that. But we're going to bring you on as an assistant coordinator, which is honestly a very much lower job than I was at. It was half the pay I was making as a Wrangler. It was half the prestige I had I was a lead Wrangler at that point. So it was actually a big step back for my career technically, but I knew that this was my in to work as Swen's shadow on a whole project. And maybe I didn't get the credit, and maybe I didn't get the pay. And people always say, you got to put it in, and people talk about working for free or these kinds of things. And for me, this kind of felt like that, because I was just getting used to having like my own apartment and not having roommates and all these nice things. And then it changed to being like, nope, I had 5 roommates and a bunch of them, smoked all day, and I'd come home and the place was messy and dirty dishes, and it was kind of miserable, right? But I did that for a year and a half, and that solidified my career. Like Swen then knew I was his guy. I did what it took. Viet knew I was a great guy as well, and Viet has hired me on countless projects since. Viet's the one that gave me then assistant supervisor on Gray Man, and then I did All the Light We Cannot See with Viet as well. So making that sacrifice and putting that work, it was tough at the time, but it helped me kind of jump into this really big role in All the Light. And just all those micro steps beforehand, I feel like, I put in the time and the hours, and very lucky, but at the same time, put in the work.
Kind of gone through that journey. So you're getting on the light. What is that like for the first time, like leading a whole project by yourself? And how is that different than everything up to that point?
It's definitely very overwhelming at first and stressful. I think any job like that, there's only so much training you can do for it, and then eventually you kind of just have to drop in. And I don't have advice of how to get lucky and get that kind of thing. And for me, it was just the right place, right time, right last couple of years. But yeah, a lot of stress early on. I think the first 4 weeks, I kept telling everyone, "Oh, I had a meeting. I think I might be getting fired next week, and I'm going to be coming home." I'd call my parents, say, "I don't know, I messed up today. I said the one wrong thing." There's a lot of politics that go into being a production side supervisor, and a lot of it is artistry. I love it because I get to be an artist. a lot of it's technical, and I love that because I love science and I love math and I love being technical, and that's beautiful. But there's politics involved as well, and just making sure that you don't step on anyone's toes. It's not awful politics, but it's smart politics, and you just want to make sure you're respecting the people you're around. And there's a lot of people in the industry that have been doing what they've been doing for 30 years. And listening to them and not stepping on toes, that definitely was a hard thing for me at first. And I made it through and made a lot of great connections. And a lot of it is just about being really communicative, at least in prep. For me, the biggest tips I found for prep is just talking to all your departments. So for the students that don't know, I mean, there's 16 departments that just come to mind in prep, and I'm probably forgetting some, but everything from locations to art department to grips, electric, everyone is prepping and doing different jobs, from special effects who deal with explosions and engineering. You need to talk with all these people almost every day to understand, my blue screen is going to get wet if I put it down there. I can't have it. I need a special kind of paint. Talking to the riggers, how high, how far back. There's so many conversations where if you're not talking to everyone all the time in prep, you fall apart. So really, communication, I think, is the biggest thing that I learned. And I would just call all these other heads of departments almost every day to make sure I hadn't missed something, because they may have a meeting with the director where now this set piece has changed, and I don't know. There's no bulletin board where everyone says this is the big thing that happened to me today. Like, you have to be active and talk to all these people, and so just communicating between all the departments is really huge.
So for the communication and politics, those are, I mean, communication somewhat, but I think politics is very difficult to learn in other contexts. Like, they don't teach that in school per se. So would you say that's something that you tried to pick up along the way from the very beginning, or was it something that just kind of hit once you got to that higher level?
Yeah, for sure. I think, something you learn being on set is politics. And I say politics, I think I make it seem more negative than it is. It's really just understanding a new environment, right? Of what is considered okay and what's not, like any job. Sometimes, though, I kind of think as film sets as a bit more militaristic, obviously very different. And I don't tend to compare an artistic form to the military, but just as a big hierarchy. And every department has a head, assistants, people down the line. And you really need to respect that line and chain of command. And it's set up for a reason, because we do dangerous things on sets. We have explosions. We have areas where if you walk, you're going to ruin a shot, and there's only one take available because we're about to ruin this set piece. And there's just a lot of things going on, high-powered electricity. Things can go wrong, and there are accidents that happen. And I think that's where a lot of this hierarchy stems from. And it's just learning what that hierarchy means and how that affects you in various positions. When you're in a meeting in prep, how do you act when you're on set? How do you act when you're rolling, when you're not rolling, when it's a night shoot versus a day shoot? Just lots of micro things. And exactly, it was just picking it up as I went along. I'd do a superhero movie and I would learn what you do in situations when you have these massive A-listers. I would do an indie film and you'd learn what you do when it's high stress environment and everyone's upset, and you kind of, just take a step back. All these kind of micro things over the years. It's definitely an accumulative thing. So I think before you can make a lot of these transitions, you do need to spend, I think it takes between 2 to 4 years of being on set in some form of capacity, whether it's a PA or junior wrangler, or even like a LiDAR tech or something that gets to come on set sometimes here and there. I think there's a lot of ways to get that experience. It's not necessarily the route I took. I know, you can work at companies that hire people out as data wranglers or hire you out as a LiDAR tech or scanner, things like this, and you can get experience that way as well. But I do think 2 to 4 years before you just understand the environment, whether you want to call it politics, environment, or the functioning of set. It's a very unique world, and people expect you to follow the rules. And without having spent that time there, you will make mess ups, which there's small weird things, whether it's how to use the walkie-talkie and say the right thing. There's all these micro things that people will just spot you, and you won't command the same respect.
Right, kind of out yourself as someone that isn't as experienced.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which I've done. I have done my fair share of times too. We all make mistakes, and I'm not saying you make a mistake and people are going to kick you off the set because you said the wrong thing on the walkie. No, it's not a toxic environment like that at all. It's a very friendly, fun environment, but people want to feel safe and trust the people around them. And if you're continuously making these little slip ups and things, then you might not know what to do in this certain dangerous environment or whatever. So they start to lose trust in you.
I mean, I think overall, it's fairly obviously the hard work. I know you've said lucky a bunch of times, but it sounds like that may not have been the case. Maybe setting yourself up for those opportunities
Yeah.
by working really hard, so when they did come, you could get lucky. Yeah, I wouldn't sell yourself short. It sounds like.
Yeah. Thanks.
But for new students, I mean, we get people from coming from film school and things like that. But for anywhere from 18 to 22 year olds, like what would be your advice to them for breaking in now with the changes that are happening in the industry too? And I know a lot. We get asked about AI a lot, things like that.
Mm.
Um, what would you advice would you give to new students about the route that they should take, whether coming from VFX or trying to be on set or coming from a film
Yeah.
background?
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of people say, it's getting out there and just starting to do work and choosing the route you want to take. There's kind of two paths you can take. There is the on-set sort of route, being a part of productions, a bit harder to get your foot in the door that way. Or there is kind of the vendor route where you start out as an artist and you work your way up at vendors. I went with the on-set route, and I have spent time working at vendors. I spent a little time at Scanline. Didn't go over it in my background story, but I did to work with Scanline for a while with their virtual production team. And for me, I think it is important to spend time at a vendor if you want to. If your goal is to become a VFX supervisor, production side, you ultimately need to spend a little time at a vendor before you can get there. Because if you're a VFX supervisor, production side, you're going to be in charge of VFX supervisors at vendors and teams there. So you do need to have some of that experience. So I think the more traditional route is to spend anywhere from 5 to 10, maybe even 15 years at a vendor, working your way up, starting as a comp artist, whether it's 2D, 3D, whatever your passion is, choosing a route and working your way up at a vendor and getting more and more experience there. But the hard thing is at a certain point, you're going to have to, if you want to be production side, you need to get that onset experience. And I think the really hard thing is if you spend that 10 to 15 years and your vendor you work at doesn't have the opportunities to send you to set, which oftentimes there's not a lot of opportunities for that. It's a very hard thing because then I think you almost have to do what I did, where you step back and you take a role as a PA or maybe as an assistant chord or something that lets you be on a project production side for the whole thing. And that's really hard when you get used to a certain lifestyle. I think making that transition is hard. So at some point there's that sacrifice to be made. So that's the one route. And that's just, getting your portfolio together, working on your artistry, starting to apply to vendors, and whether you might have to do an internship for a little while at a smaller boutique company so that then you can get to one of the bigger vendors and then work your way up. That's definitely a route. If you want to risk it like I did and try to do this lucky route of getting where I've gotten, you can certainly go more production side. And like you said, maybe it's not luck, hard work, and you can do a lot of hard work either way. Production side is definitely a very difficult route to make your way up. I do think it's very possible to work your way up if you start as a PA on any department, whether or not it's visual effects, and slowly work your way and find a visual effects team on postings, job postings. They are out there online. If you search, they will pop up. You can do that and work your way up to a Wrangler. It is possible to make the jump from Wrangler to on-set supervisor. I do think that can come with just enough experience as a Wrangler and finding people that really trust you and showing them you work hard. But if you really want to transition to being a full-time supervisor that is doing prep, shoot, and post, a lead supervisor, I do think you need some vendor experience. Or the way I went is getting this education. And at CG Spectrum, that enabled me to, because I hadn't had vendor experience at that point, it gave me enough of that experience. I also bought textbooks that I could find, and they talked more about pipeline things at vendors. So I really tried to study what did I miss at a vendor, and it made me a lot more useful, because a lot of times Wranglers, for instance, they don't know why they're capturing textures. They don't know why they're capturing photogrammetry. They know, yes, photogrammetry creates 3D models, but until you've been an artist yourself and you've tried taking photos and building these things, you don't understand that. So I think definitely having some sort of education on whether it's then transitioning after being a Wrangler to 5-10 years at a vendor to get that experience, or doing something online and then helping finding someone to mentor you. There are a couple of routes to do it, but I think either way, you just got to get started, whether it's starting doing your artistry, like I said, in a portfolio, or just hopping on projects as a PA. Kind of choose your route and choose which seems more appealing to you. Both of them are going to take at least 10 years before you're, in a position where you're higher up that you might dream about having. It might even take you 20 or 30 years. But it's a really fun journey, and you get to be a part of some amazing projects and talk to some really cool people. So either route is fun and exciting, and I don't necessarily know if one's better than the other.
Yeah, sure. Time well spent, at least.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So for you, yeah, what's next? Now that you have this Emmy nomination, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I was very excited to get the Emmy nom. The team worked really hard and on all the light, and we did lots of research, and it was a lot of work. So I've been taking some time off. It was definitely exhausting. I finished all the light and I went right into Deadpool and Wolverine. So it was definitely 3 years of just working straight. Didn't have any vacation besides, a week off for Christmas. So it's been a long run. So I've been enjoying some time off, some rest and relaxation. But yeah, I don't have a project lined up, but I'm hoping to in the new year. There's a lot of stuff brewing, and I have some jobs possibly lined up. So we'll see. I might have a few things lined up I can't talk about yet, but hopefully some of them pull through, and get back soon and make some more amazing visual effects.
Awesome. Yeah, maybe we'll get you back here after you win your
Yeah.
Oscar.
Yeah, we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Before we head out, any kind of final advice to anybody coming on? I know there's a lot of good snippets in here, especially about working
Yeah,
working
totally.
diligently. But anything else you'd like to leave?
I think stick with it and know that it takes passion. And I think not to leave on a negative note, but it's actually a positive note in that um, if you know you love the industry and you love whether it's the artistry or the final product or the process or the people, if there's some aspect of film that you love, you will make it in the industry. Just by being passionate in this industry is, I think, where you got to where you want to get. I mean, I love making films, and I didn't mind the long hours. It always was interesting people. Don't get me wrong, there's negative parts, but I think passion is what gets you through, because you're going to have long hours. You're going to have 80-hour weeks, 100-hour weeks every once in a while. And those are exhausting, and they consume a lot of your time in life. And I think just knowing that at the start, that it is a very time consuming industry. But if you are passionate, it won't feel time consuming. It will feel like you're around friends, even family, and you're doing great stuff. So I think, just follow your passion. And if you truly are passionate about the industry, stick with it, and your passion will get you there eventually. It might take you longer than me or shorter than me to get where I got. I don't know. But I think really for me, it was a lot of just about following my passions.
Thanks for joining us. Let us know what you thought about this episode in the comments down below. And if you'd like to see more content like this, subscribe and follow. And let us know what topics you'd like to hear about next.